what's up, everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome back to MXGP 2020, where today we're going to start my career mode, I guess. And I say start loosely because there's a little bit of a problem. I already recorded a first career mode video that didn't save, so I've gone a little bit too far with the career mode at this point, and obviously my first look video had some of the career mode in it because I just went into the career mode to play it. So we are playing the MXGP of Turkey, but it's actually the second moto already because the first moto I did, and then I did the second moto and then exited out before the second moto saved, and anyway, a lot of things have happened. So sessions-wise, we've already finished the first race. Just to kind of try to update you guys on where we are. Let's see. I was hoping to show you guys where everything is at for like skill level and stuff, but this is on realistic difficulty, realistic physics. I'm on the JK Racing Honda team. No, I'm sorry. I'm on Honda 114, so I joined their team, Honda 114. And I need to change those boots and everything. But we'll finish this second moto and continue on with the career mode on the next track. But anyway, I figured today I wanted to play this game, play the career mode, and talk a little bit about the physical aspects of the game, because I don't really feel like I hit on them as well as I should have on my first look video. I think I was frustrated about how many features are missing with the game on day one, and it carried into me being more or less frustrated about, you know, the physics still not being exactly where we want them or anything like that. So I wanted to separate a couple things to talk about with the physics in this video while we play career mode in the MX2 division. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was kind of like, I guess, bike physics versus animations. So like really the discussion of physics versus animations. Now these arcade type games, and it even is the same with MXGP TV to a degree, they all have a degree of like rider animations that really aren't super pertinent to what's happening on the track or on the bike itself. So like I like to use the term bike versus rider often, just because like rider physics kind of have their own, I don't know, like mindset, where the bike physics are really what you feel, what's the, you know, planted on the ground, how the bike reacts to things and stuff like that. So talking about that and talking about how the bike feels on the ground and what you can kind of gather from this game so far is that yes, the bike is a little bit more slowed down, especially when you're on a completely stock bike like I was in the first look video, or on a not so factory level team, or just on a 250 in general. The 450s in this game definitely have a speed advantage compared to the 250Fs. There's no question about that. So once you get to the 450s, you'll notice that speed seems to come back. But the 250s, they're slower, they lug a little bit more, they're harder to kind of just carry speed with in general. And so because of that, it probably looks like the gameplay is really slow, but it's probably just the camera that I'm in. Like if I go into this camera, I like that far camera a little bit more, but this camera being a little bit closer, you can see that it feels like a little bit faster, and it especially feels fast in first person. Like if you play it like you'd be riding a real dirt bike, this feels very high paced and everything along those lines. So it's really down to the camera mode that I like playing in that probably makes the game look really, really slow, but it's just because that closer camera bounces around just a little bit too much. It's kind of harder to follow along with, and because of that, I just like going to this little farther, static cam. The gameplay to me just feels a little bit better all the way out here. So I go with this camera. But anyway, there are no ruts. There aren't these things that you can get hung into, but I do feel that the ground physics are a bit of an improvement in this game as compared to MXGP 2019. We need the ruts, I get it, but they've added some more like inside lines, inside berms, like the one that I just kind of hit right there, and then a couple other corners have some more inside berms. And all of us that ride dirt bikes and follow the MXGP series know how many ruts get developed in these corners, and it's not like you go outside and hit the embankment in every corner. So it's nice that they at least added a few more options to hit some inside lines that wasn't in the game before. And in general, I feel like the bike reacts to those inside lines very well. You definitely have to use the right stick quite a bit in this game. You have to lean back, you have to lean forward into corners, you have to lean over a little bit more to get yourself to lay over. And even to a degree, when you kind of bog out of a corner, it's actually pretty good to use the clutch to get your momentum going again. Now, don't use the clutch out of every corner, because it kind of tends to do like this weird bog or lag every once in a while. But for the most part, it can save you if you're really, really you know, coming out of a corner bad and, you know, need a little bit of a boost, kind of. But, you know, laying into the corners, laying into the ruts, I feel like the bike tends to do that a lot better in this game than it did in past titles, including MXGP 3, which we all know did actually have working ruts in that game. It kind of, I feel like, doesn't really look like it when you're watching the gameplay, but it does actually have, you know, kind of a bit more of a, I guess the term I would use for it is like movement of the suspension and the bike underneath you. It's still not enough. The bike still needs to definitely move around more and react to bumps and react to landing hard and other things like that. But it does seem like so far there are some movements of the bike and movements of the suspension and stuff that are a little bit more tailor-made to what you can expect out of like a real-life landing or a real-life braking bumper, other things like that. Gravity-wise, going off into the air with the bike, it definitely feels a little bit kind of floatier, not super floaty, but a little bit floatier. It definitely does still feel like the gravity pulls you back to the ground too quick. Like you take off and float up, but then coming back to the ground, it feels like it's really pulling you back in. So I don't love that feeling. I wish it was a little bit more, you know, projectiled correctly. I don't, you know, the physically aspect of it is that, you know, when you take off from a jump at a certain speed, you're going to go a certain distance, you're going to travel at a certain angle, and I feel like this game doesn't really give you that vibe very much from some of these jumps. Some of the jumps it does feel right. Some of the jumps it feels like you take off and halfway through you run completely out of speed and you suddenly just get pulled back down to the ground, and that's obviously very, very annoying to play with. So yeah, I think that can be worked on a little bit with you know, the ground physics and kind of the bike physics. Air physics, yeah, it is still kind of just the same right-left scrub. You can throw kind of like little oppo whips here and there. It's pretty much the exact same thing that we have for the Supercross games, so nothing dramatically different about that. But, you know, ground-wise, I think there are some minute improvements that we can speak of that, you know, you do have to slow down for corners. You don't have to use the rear and front brake in every single situation. You can use just the front brake. You can use just the rear brake. And it feels like the flow of the game, once you get the hang of it, is actually fairly good. It's not as bad as I initially had thought it felt. So, but that's just the actual bike physics, or, you know, physics themselves separated from animations. I think the animations in this game need a lot of work. And I wish that they would stop calling it animations or stop treating it like it is animations that are the rider movements. I wish it was more of like, you know, you move the right stick and the body actually does move those directions, or you case a jump and the body actually, like, you know, flows back and forth with the bike, because I don't feel like it does that at all. I feel like you case a jump hard and the bike tips really hard forward and the rider tips really hard forward, even if you're leaned all the way back, which is, in my opinion, it just looks bad. Like, it just doesn't look polished. Please don't tell me I have a glitch going on right now where the credits are clicking the entire time. There's something I can do different. I might have to cut in the video right here. All right, so spoiler alert. Yeah, the glitch didn't stop, so I had to come out of the game and come back in. Little annoyance there, I suppose. But let's go ahead, and I wanted to edit this a little bit. I had already updated my player outside of career mode, but when I came back into that race, it was already the player that I was using before. So I added this 6D helmet, and I'm going to change the goggles. I wanted to go up to the Oakleys. Do I have enough cash for these just yet? Actually, wasn't there? I think there was actually a Scott goggle that I wanted to run. They looked pretty good. Yeah, that one I feel like looks pretty good with the helmet, so we'll run that. Then put some A-Star boots on me down there. And is the back number fixed to what I wanted? Yeah. It's stupid. The back number, you can't really, unfortunately, you can't really change the back number or name. The name you can change a bunch. You can go fairly high with the name, not too high. Wish you could go higher for sure. But the back number, absolutely, you can't move enough. So, like, if I wanted, I like this number the best, but I can only go, well, if I make it really small, I can go just above the MXGP logo. But the bigger I want it, that's as high as I can go. I can't go any higher than this. So I just elected to go with this so that I can make it a little bit bigger and just cover the MXGP logo, basically. So, I mean, that's going to look really stupid still anyway, but it looks better than the other thing, I guess. So Anyway, back to what I was talking about as we'll move into the next race here in the MX2 Championship. Contract-wise, I think I could join another team now. I'm up to level 10, so I can join DRT Racing Kawasaki. Well, I mean, we already knew I was up to level 10, so I'm waiting until I can get to level 20. And then I could join the Husqvarna Junior Racing Matty team, Diga Procross Gas, the Hitachi KTM team, Bud Racing Kawasaki, and that looks to be it before you get up to the factory level teams. So we'll just continue on with the Honda 114 effort as we go to Pietra Murata in Italy. But yeah, back to animations and what I was talking about there before the glitch interrupted me. As we look here, AI realistic, rewind off, quick races, but advanced physics. I wish they would stop calling it animations or stop trying to make it animated movements of the rider. Like, it should just be smooth, fluid transitions from when you're leaning and pulling back and doing different things on the bike. Hey, there we go. Red number plate finally on the bike now. But when you're doing those things, it should just be fluid. It shouldn't be like, oh, you case a jump and the animation kicks on, or you hit a corner a certain way and the animation kicks on, as that was way too easy to get that whole shot there. I just wish that it was a little bit more polished up, I suppose, where we have real movements of the rider and stuff like that. Right now, I just don't feel like we have very good real movements, and I feel like it's in part because the bike doesn't react to things the way it should be. When it cases a jump, when it hits something a certain way, it needs to, have the front end bounce forward and bounce back and stuff like that. Let the suspension do what it's supposed to do on the bike, but it doesn't really feel like the bike handles that stuff well at all, in my opinion. Like, if you're riding a smooth track, the bike looks A-okay, but the second you start hitting rough tracks, which, by the way, that's another thing that I feel like they're lacking with these tracks. These GP tracks are freaking highways, man. Even in these roller sections, like, not enough rough, not enough big bumps and stuff like that. Like, there has to be braking bumps, acceleration bumps, different gnarly things, and I think that they choose not to include them in the games because the physics don't really work with it. Like, you need the suspension to work, you need the bike to move around and jostle around, and the rider to react to it with its legs and different things like that, but I just don't feel like the rider really does it because all that's really set up for the game is to try to create like close racing with the rider where you can bang into each other, but everything is a highway, like everything really. So I don't love that aspect of it for sure, but I guess I can kind of understand why they have it the way they do. I just wish it's something that in the future they would kind of work on updating and trying to make something that feels a little bit more realistic with the bike, so that maybe the rider, it doesn't need such drastic animations or anything like that. It just needs to react to what the bike does better, in my opinion. Just moving your knees a little bit on landing or stuff like that is not what a rider does. Like, he really makes some exaggerated movements in real life. So anyway, that's kind of a roundabout way of explaining kind of my difference between what is like physical implications with what the bike does versus the animated implications with what the rider does and stuff like that. And you'll see that the AI, they're pretty good on some tracks, they're not so good on other tracks. One thing that is a little bothersome to me about this, though, is that talking about those inside berms and other things that are great for us users that we can finally hit, it seems like the AI has no idea that those things are there in some corners. And you saw that U-turn where I just banged into the side of Rene Hofer couple corners back, and he just seemed like he was like riding, look at again, like doesn't realize there's an inside berm there and just kind of runs it over. Seems just kind of weird to me. And too much sliding, way too much sliding in this game. Still, they really need to button up the sliding. In real life, we on dirt bikes have way better grip and traction with these tires with these modern 4-strokes than this game really presents for. Sliding coming into a corner definitely doesn't happen unless you're on the brakes, which when I just slid out right there, I was not on the brakes at all. I was just trying to get prepared for the corner. So couple things like that, again, they just need to button it up. They just need to take the time necessary to really understand how the bike works, understand how the rider is supposed to work, and how it really is supposed to react in all these different situations. And if they work on that, I think you're going to see a lot more improvement with the game over time. But, they're on a strict annual timeline. Again, I feel like I always have to say this every year, but they are literally licensed, contracted to, etc., release a game every year for the series' sake. They got a little bit, I guess, lucky or maybe unlucky that there was a year that they basically straight up skipped a season, but it was because they were advancing the game so that it could be based on the season that we were currently in instead of the season that we'd already gone through. So again, they have to release these games every year. It's just part of the deal. I know that people think it's a money grab, but it's really because they're contractually obligated to. Even though it is, to a degree, a money grab. These companies are always in it to make money. They don't sit there at night and go, I guess I don't want to make any money. I just want to make a game that people enjoy and make no money. They need to make money at the end of the day. So, yeah. Anyway, physical versus animations discussion here. But like I've mentioned at the beginning too, I do feel that there are positives with this game for sure. It's not all bad. It's not as doom and gloom as it was at the beginning, especially now that they've added first person in and some other things that we can kind of key off of and play a little bit more and feel a little bit more immersed to the game. I feel like the speeds of the bike and everything like that, those slow down in some areas and a little bit too hard to turn in some areas and stuff like that. It definitely is a little bit closer to realistic than some of their past titles, which was like way, way, way too fast in some areas, and then in others way, way, way too slow. So, yeah, I think they're making some improvements. I'm not going to give them like an A+ on this one at all. I think that there are obviously some things that needed to be worked on, and in my opinion, the whole like release half a game and then have a day 2 patch was a disaster idea for them. Like they really should have either from the beginning been transparent about the fact that they were going to still release it on that date but not have a patch available until that second day, or just delay it a day. I mean, I get that it would have probably made people upset that it was delayed a day, but to have a more complete game actually come out and be released, I think was probably the better choice for them instead of what ended up happening, which is release a game that was pretty much half finished and then hope people bought it. But I mean, if anybody's opened up Steam and looked at the reviews for this game, ooh, are they bad right now? And it's not just because of the post-patch gameplay or anything like that. It's a lot of people who bought it day one and were upset, like I was, about an incomplete game. So bad look there for Milestone. I think that they kind of dropped the ball on whatever they were trying to do there. And it was all so strange for me personally, but for a lot of us that we do actually work fairly close with Milestone and talk to them quite a bit, and get early access to these games to be able to show you guys most of the time. Supercross 4 is a perfect example of that, where we got early access alpha, myself and Wyndham and a few others. I think Yellow, Tylen, maybe Scooty, a couple other people had the game early. And this time around, we had nothing. They didn't say a word, and there was really no indication that the game was even going to come out with the day that it did, other than that it had a scheduled release date. But yeah, it was just like so strange how abruptly it all changed, and then suddenly it was out and unfinished, and yeah, just not a good look. And hopefully, if you didn't get upset about the day one thing and decided to wait and buy the game, I think for the $50 price tag, it's fairly well-finished game so far. There are some things that need to be included 100%. I don't know why they don't have Fox boots or fly helmets or some things that they've had in past games, but they don't. But they do have some things that other people probably would have complained if they didn't have. They have the 450 Honda Works Edition. They have the Suzuki's in-game. 2 strokes are again in-game, which people always seem to love, even though there's not an EMX 125 or EMX 250 class or series in this game still, which is something I definitely think that they should consider adding for career mode purposes at some point. And then yeah, I don't know, track editor is a lot of fun. I haven't done really any multiplayer yet, but that's something I'm excited to kind of batten down the hatches and get into. They added Faenza and Mantova, so now it's a 17 race championship that you can play instead of just the 15 races that they had, and it sounds like a couple more tracks are still coming, so it can just kind of keep an ear out for that, and those will be patched in. Those aren't going to be DLC tracks or anything like that, so that's going to be exciting to see when those come out and kind of add a little bit more extra flair to the game. Of course, I am personally hopeful that they add more environments to the track editor, and it seems like they did kind of leave it open-ended to do so. I don't know for sure that that's the case, but it does seem like there should be a couple more slots available for something other than just the apple orchard to do for track editors, so maybe that's something that in the future they might also do. But yeah, we got to get some of the other customization aspects in game. People always were like, where the heck are the bell helmets and the shift gear and stuff like that? But I mean, to have Fox boots and fly helmets and some of the other things that they did have, and then the next year not have any of those things in the game is kind of like, what the heck happened? Like, where are you guys trying to go with this? You know, like, why did you not include them this time? So some good, some bad. Again, like, I'm definitely not as pissed off as I was day one. And as I've played the game more, as I've gotten a little bit more used to the physics and stuff like that, it's pretty fun, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of fun to be had with this game. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to do with this game and have fun with it. Lots more races and career mode stuff that I'm going to do. But I figured it would be a good idea on this lovely Friday to put together a little bit of a video showing off some more aspects of the career mode, showing off more of the tracks, talking a little bit about the physics, talking about some other things that pertain to this game, and hopefully some of it makes sense to you guys. If you're, still kind of upset and other things like that, I get it. I'm not one to say that my opinion of all this is kind of the end-all be-all, and if you don't agree with it, then you're an idiot. I totally understand that a lot of people are still very unhappy with these games, but I also understand that a lot of people are very happy with these games and think that they're a joy, a lot of fun to play, and it doesn't have to be so cut and dry. So anyway, just digging into the game a little bit today, I suppose, and talking about many aspects of it. But with 2 laps here to go, we're going to be wrapping up the video here pretty soon. I like this version of Pietro Murata. I feel like it's pretty good with the inside berms and lines that they have presented, and I feel like you can definitely lay into them very well. Like, I feel like I've had a couple pretty good corners so far as I get into this corner. That was not one of the good corners that I had, but I've had a couple of them. I feel like the track is built pretty well. Again, I wish there was more braking bumps, acceleration bumps, and ruts, but what are you going to do? Take it with a grain of salt for right now. Like how the bike reacts in this roller section. It's fun, man. I don't know. Doesn't have to be all bad news. There is that little glitch that's going around as well, that inside turning glitch that I just kind of like laid it over in the corner, and then it seemed like it turned really fast. As far as I can tell, and thanks to my buddy Todd Gutierrez for helping me out understand this a little bit, it seems like if you're on a far inside corner and you're trying to make a really, really quick turn, only jab the stick, like maybe like real quick jab, and then let it go, because if you keep holding it, it's going to think that you really need to make that turn, and it's just going to keep trying to turn and turn, and then it eventually will do that quick jerk thing. So yeah, be light on the sticks on those tight inside corners and really try to manage them. Don't be too heavy on them and such. All right, one more lap to go. I feel like that lap time is very short for this track. Under 130. I don't think they're doing that in real life. But I think in real life, the track's also a little bit longer. I feel like this track in this game feels like really tight. And I know it's tight in real life too, but I just feel like this version of it in this game is like, oof. These corners are really sharp, and I feel like the momentum carried from jump to jump and stuff like that all comes up a little bit faster than you expect it to. Beautiful place, though. I think that this... It looks like a facility that might be a little bit too tightly knit together to maybe actually host a Motocross of Nations. Like, it wouldn't be able to hold enough spectators, perhaps. But it's such a beautiful area in Italy, northern part of Italy. Just on the south of the Swiss Alps and stuff like that. It's a great track, in my opinion. So hopefully one day maybe they host a Donations here. But as I get to the end of this lap here, wrap up this race, that is going to do it for me here on this episode of Career Mode on MXGP 2020. We'll be back with some more stuff, probably do like 2 races a video like I was kind of supposed to do with this one, but I'd already done a half a race at Turkey. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Hopefully my discussions make sense. As always, if you have anything you'd like to add, hit the comment section below, and I'd be happy to answer them down there. But I appreciate you guys stopping by and watching as always, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So long for now.